Hello, hello. Welcome to this week's coaching call. I'm excited about this topic. As usual, give me just a minute to let my live YouTube finish loading. That way I know we are up and going. So as I finish getting this set up, I want to let you know that I am not a person who likes New Year's resolutions. And even I can get a little burnt out sometimes on the discussion of goals. So if that sort of is something that doesn't resonate with you right off the bat, please know that I understand that. And I think that what I'm going to talk about today is going to resonate with you. I think you're going to connect with it. So the reason I don't like resolutions, New Year's resolutions, and you may have heard a lot of people talk about this as well, especially if you consume a lot of like personal development content and stuff like that. I'm talking to therapists too. I think this is a common view that resolutions, we tend to just set some big expectation that often is, so it's very big and it's often, maybe not often, but I don't know, a good portion of the time for a lot of people, it can be sort of a surface level resolution or goal, or it's focused on like an achievement that we think we should have, like I should be at this point in my career or my financial success, or I should look a certain way, I should be a certain weight. There's so many like fitness goals, fitness and health goals around New Year's resolutions, right? After the holidays, everybody wants to lose a few pounds that they gained from eating too many holiday cookies and get in better shape, and so that's kind of the stereotype, right? And then everybody sort of falls off by the end of January, like pretty quickly. All those new gym memberships are just going to waste, just a month or two later. And so that is why I'm not a big fan of all the hype around New Year's resolutions. Now, what I've noticed in recent years is more of a focus on sort of not going hard in the way we normally think about New Year's resolutions, but more of just taking the opportunity as the new year approaches to like reflect on the previous year and think about where you want to move in the future. And so I don't think that we have to do this right at New Year's. In fact, right now, starting in, it's November now, but really starting in October for me, I tend to start thinking about this. I think about how I want my calendar year to end and how I want to start in the new year. And so I think it's great around this time, especially before we get into all the hustle bustle of like the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, if you celebrate those. I know there's just multiple other holidays around this time of year as well. And so the hustle bustle busyness, but also for some of us, kind of the depression that can sink in this time of year, right? Especially if you're fresh out of a divorce, separation, where your family traditions and routines around this time of year are going to look totally different. And so that's something we'll be discussing more through that time as the holidays approach, probably starting next week on these redefined calls. But right now, I want to go ahead and get us thinking about our vision for ourselves, for our future in the coming year in 2023, before we kind of dive into just sort of making it through the holidays or making the best of the holidays, however you want to look at that. So today I'm going to talk about some achievements that I am very proud of from this past year. I'm going to talk about sort of my goals and areas of focus moving forward, specifically how I want to feel in the future. So this is really important. This is another important distinction that I think makes this sort of New Year's goal setting more effective and more meaningful, is to think about how we want to feel. So I'll get more into that. And then I'm going to challenge you to do a little bit of homework. And I would love for you to get back to me. For those of you Redefined members watching this in the Redefined app, you can message me privately within the app or just post in the community chat. I would love for others to see this too. I want you to say, what are you most proud of from this past year? What are 1 to 3 areas you want to focus on improving in the new year and kind of starting now? And 3, how can I help? How can I support you in that? And so wherever you're watching this, whether you're watching it on YouTube, whether you access this through an email I sent out, or you're in the app, you're gonna, or maybe my free Facebook group, you're gonna see that down below somewhere in this post or email. You'll see those questions laid out for you, that homework. So Redefine members, I am going to share this video with the other overcomers in our community, not just the monthly members, because I think this is really, really important. So first, the things that I have accomplished over this past year, and the feeling I'm focusing on for this is proud. So it's things I feel the proudest of. Now, there's certainly a lot that I've accomplished. There's some things that people from the outside might look at as really great that I might not look at as great. But I really honed in on what I feel proud of. And so there's 4 things. One is that in January of this year, which it took me a minute to really realize, well, that was all within this year, I launched the Redefine coaching app. And so my program, my core 10-week challenge that's here in the app that you guys are participating in, if you're watching this through the app right now, that existed as a previous program. It was just the Redefine process. You could access it on a website. We had a Facebook group as our community component. And I had this vision of transitioning to an app that could be accessed, via your app store or a website where the community component was all combined. And I wanted the chance to add in other courses, like free courses for those who couldn't pay monthly or weren't ready to do that yet. And just other features like the opportunity to use my creativity and just to add other elements to it as I went. And I also liked the monthly membership idea. And so that is more in line with something that evolves over time. It just makes sense, a monthly membership. And so that was a big ordeal that I really started in 2021 to transition that, to envision how that would look, in the app. And I have a hosting app, Passion.io, where I was able to follow templates and things, but it was still a big deal to put in the work to even just think through, okay, this existing program I had on this other website, how can I transition that to this new format, and how do I want it to look and feel and all of that. And it's still a constant progression. I'm reiterating it all the time. And, but that was a huge accomplishment. And so that was interesting for me as I reflected on what I feel proud of, oh yeah, that happened. A lot of the beginning work happened in 2021, but I launched it in January of 2022 of this year. And so I've done so much work on that, but kind of the one thing I'm proud of is just launching that this year, because that had been a big goal and vision. Number 2, a goal. See, you're going to see how this ties in. So next year, when you do this again for 2024, you're going to look back on what you're proud of in 2022 and say, oh, that was a goal I set. That was something I wanted to accomplish. And now it's something I feel proud of, right? So I had these previous goals. Now they've become the things I'm reflecting on that I was proud of from the previous year. So number 2 is I really wanted to see if I could find some good podcasts to be interviewed on. And part of that is my mission to reach more and more women with my message, with my tools that I have, just the really basic process of kind of scribbling your feelings and dialoguing with your artwork through asking it questions. That very basic process is something that anyone can just jump in and try with a pretty simple explanation from me of how to do that. And so I really love being able to share that with people, information about the art media and how that affects how we interact with the art making process. And so I wanted to be on some podcasts for that reason, but also to promote the work that I'm doing, right? That's a great marketing tool to get in front of other audiences. And so I had never been interviewed on a podcast before this past year. And I was interviewed on 3 of them. They all actually happened during the summer. The first one was the Flying Free podcast with Natalie Hoffman. She works specifically with Christian women who have suffered domestic abuse, domestic violence of any kind. And number 2 was the Fabulous podcast with Angela Baylor. She was a new friend that I met online through sort of a professional group. She's also also a Christian. I think part of our conversation, well, both those conversations, some of it was kind of specific to our experiences as Christian women, but a lot of it was just so relatable to anyone who's been in these situations. So she's also a survivor of abuse. And so we got into talking about different parts of my story and the art process that some overlapped with the Flying Free interview, but some was different. And so I really enjoyed those two experiences. And then the third one, that actually just aired at the beginning of October of 2022. But the interview happened in the summer, was the Think Unbroken podcast with Michael Unbroken. And I had been a client of his in group coaching programs and really benefited from his books as well, and his podcast. And I was avid listener of the podcast. And at one point I reached out to him and I said, hey, I noticed you haven't had an art therapist on the podcast. You've had all of these other, mental health professionals within the trauma field and not an art therapist. Like, what would you think of me being on the podcast? And he immediately was like, I love that idea. And in particular, I think I'm proud of all of these interviews and proud of myself for reaching out to ask to be on the podcast, because that took a lot of courage for me and confidence in my work and what I had to offer to their audiences. But I'm especially proud of the Think Unbroken podcast, I think, because to me, it took more nerve to do that, because he has had a lot of guests that are very prominent people in like the mental health coaching world, therapists, people who have written books, people who have, if you all are familiar with like Tom Bilyeu, people like that who are like very big names. And so for me to be able to be on the list of guests that he has interviewed, was a big deal to me. And so I feel very proud of that. And it was a little bit out of my comfort zone, because I shared, so he focuses on childhood trauma, but it's definitely relevant to what you've experienced, even if you don't consider yourself a victim of childhood trauma. So I suggest you check that out, the Think Unbroken podcast. But so I shared more of my backstory kind of growing up and kind of what led me to the point in my life where then I was in the abusive relationship with a narcissist. And I also went way, way more in depth in the background behind sort of the rationale behind art therapy, more than I even share here with my paid clients, because I know he likes to go deep on the podcast. So I really challenged myself basically. And I felt very like anxious, especially afterwards, and nervous, because I had challenged myself out of my comfort zone so much. I wasn't just sharing the same kind of things I'm used to sharing with people. And so that's why I'm especially proud of that podcast interview. And I made mistakes, right? It wasn't without mistakes, especially on that one. There were some times where I fumbled over my words, some things I remember later I wish I had said, but overall, I'm very proud of it. And I think those experiences are the ones that help us to grow the most, right? Even if we make quote unquote mistakes, it's all learning opportunity. It's all just life experience. And so, so that was important to me. Then I'm looking at my list here. Then speaking of podcasts, I launched my own podcast. This was just very recently. It was in September, and I had been kind of thinking about it a lot and not really sure how I wanted to do it, because I kind of wanted to have a visual component to it. And I thought, well, would I do a video podcast? Should I just do YouTube? And for a variety of reasons I won't get into, I realized it was best to do just a regular podcast. But then if you've listened to it, Art That Overcomes, that's my podcast. I just refer people to my Instagram pages, to it's also on Facebook, and also to my email list to view the images that I'm discussing, to have that visual component there. And so I thought that was a good tie-in, and I'm really proud of the podcast and have plans to vary things as I go along. I might transition into having some interviews with just other creatives, and so I'm excited about that. And that was something that probably a year ago I would not have really considered seriously. And so that was, again, out of my comfort zone, right? It was a big departure for me, but something I'm really proud of. And I think really good things are going to continue to come from it. And 4, this is like a totally different kind of topic. All of these are like professional, right? Because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm running my own business. And so I find a lot of my focus is on that. But another one the last thing that I'm really most proud of from this past year is that I went to physical therapy. And so and you'll hear more about health goals for next year, but it's hard for me to go to doctors and things like that. And I had a foot injury that I've sort of bemoaned about on many of these coaching videos before as I was going through it. And that really kind of forced me, I was like limping around. It forced me to actually go into physical therapy for the first time, which is something I should have pursued in the past because I have a lot of joint issues. I have some hypermobility in my joints and it causes lots of issues. And so I was proud of myself again, stepping out of my comfort zone, going to physical therapy, first going to my regular doctor to get the referral for the physical therapist, going to the appointment, doing the subsequent exercises she advised. At the beginning of this school year, I got a little bit off on doing the exercises, and I've since gotten back into it the past couple of weeks because they really benefit me. And so that is a huge improvement to my quality of life to be doing those exercises specific to me that I learned from the physical therapist. And I couldn't have learned that just from looking at random exercises online and things like that, trying to research it myself. I needed someone to like measure my joint mobility, how far back my knee bends out of the normal range, and to sort of diagnose me and tell me what I needed to do for myself. And so that was a huge deal for me. Now, moving forward to the new year, I've found that my goals, so I'm encouraging you to come up with 1 to 3 areas to focus on. I think that's a good place to start. That's actually where I started when I was sort of brainstorming these goals several weeks ago. And my main areas are health and then work/finances, because I see those as together. And I'll explain more about those categories as I go. But so first, under health. So first I came up with those couple of different areas that I want to focus on. And then I narrowed it down into more specific goals. And for myself, I will get even more specific about this, but for the sake of this, I'm not going to like break it down for you, like what I'm going to do every hour of the day of the week or whatever to achieve this. But I think it is great to get really granular and really specific. But first, start with those 1 to 3 areas. So for me, health, and then work/finances. So first, there are several like medical appointments that I need to tend to in the coming year. The dentist, I need to go to an allergy doctor, have some allergy testing done, probably some more in-depth sort of hormonal blood work from maybe like a functional medicine doctor, more of a naturopathic doctor to hone in on kind of some things. Also like pursuing like ways of eating to help balance my blood sugar more, which relates to the hormones and everything. So there's a lot of detailed kind of physical stuff that I'm dealing with. And I know I need some additional like doctor's appointments to address that. So I am focused this next year on taking care of my health through making those appointments. Just like I saw a benefit from going to the physical therapist, I need to make these other appointments as well. Another one with my health is daily movement. So some of that is through following through with the exercises from physical therapy. That helps my mood. It helps my joints to not hurt. I do have sort of some fitness goals. I want to feel just stronger. I've been in that place in the past, and I'd like to get back to that. 3, so I'm including this in health because it's mental health. I recently started going back into therapy to focus on doing some EMDR around some very specific issues. And I want to see that through this phase of the specific issues that I've identified that I want to address through the EMDR therapy. And so I want to see that through, finish that out. That's a goal. And that might lead to something else after that, but I at least want to finish this phase of therapy that I have started and that has been helpful to me so far. And the next one, okay, so work and finances. So I have kind of 2 goals that are related to this. So kind of more generally is improved finances. So getting a better handle on my finances. This includes getting more work, more clients, that type of thing. And then related to that, but also sort of its own thing for more personal reasons, is that I plan to write a book. And this is not going to be like a 300-page, book published like through a traditional publisher. This is going to be a short book intentionally. There's a certain type of book that I'm aiming to write, which I won't get into all that, but I have studied, online courses on this and all sorts of things to figure out kind of what I wanted to do with this. And so this will be a short book, less than 100 pages. And it's really aiming to be sort of an introduction to my story and also the work that I do. And so the working title I have right now is the first time I'm announcing this. So consider yourself, privileged, in a privileged category to be hearing this right now. So the Uncommon Guide to Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. And the subtitle is How I Used Art to Break the Pattern, Redefine My Identity, and Learn to Trust Again. So again, I'll be sharing part of my story and also just this work that I do, the process that I teach, right? Same reason for being on the podcast. I want to be able to get this out there to as many people as possible. The book will cost a small fee. I think it's going to be $4.99. I plan to have an ebook and then hopefully an audio book if I can sort of figure that out easily. There's all different ways to do that. There's easier ways and more complicated ways, but at least the ebook and the audio book. And then as far as a published paper copy, I would love to do that in the future, but that's not necessarily a goal this year. So with all of that, so the medical and like health related things and mental health, and then, managing my finances and my work and writing a book as well. The feeling that I want from that is stable. So and I should have started with that. The feeling that I'm aiming for is stable. So I should have started with that. So let me backtrack a minute. When you're coming up with your 1 to 3 sort of areas of focus, like for me, it was health and work/finances, the feeling I wanted associate with those areas is stable. So I want my health and when I talk about my health, I'm not like unhealthy, like I don't have a diagnosed like disease aside from like the joint hypermobility, but I don't feel well a lot of days. I feel fatigued. There's something off with my hormones, that type of thing. So I want to feel more stable and to have more energy. So in that sense, I want my health to be more stable. And then financially, I want to be more stable. Being self-employed, it can be very up and down. And there's certainly things that I can do to make that more stable and to manage my finances more wisely as I move forward with my business. And so, yeah, just like, just that sigh of relief of feeling like things are organized and under my control, and it's more stable in both health and work and finances. Some other feeling words that I wrote down, and I actually write these down, some combination of these feeling words every day in my journal. I write kind of a general goal that I'm working on right now. The goal is writing the book. So every day in my journal, I'm writing down that goal as if I've already achieved it. So that's the next step I'll probably talk about more in future videos as we continue to break these down. But every day I'm writing, I'm an author. I finished writing my book and recording the audiobook, and I'm ready to launch it out to the world, And so the feelings associated with that, but also all these other sort of stable goals is so stable, also a feeling of being confident, free, fun, and playful and creative. Trusting, and for me, that's specifically trusting myself and also trusting God in this process, and a feeling of being at ease. So less anxious, at ease, trusting. The fun and playful and creative I want to bring up to as a side note, because so my goals right now for this year are very like practical. Again, that feeling of stable. And that's just what I feel like I need right now. There are certainly lots of other things that I plan to accomplish in this year that are, I think, more focused on that fun, playful, and my creativity. The reason why creativity, those creative goals, are not specific focuses for me this year as far as these bigger goal categories is that I trust that those are going to happen for me, if that makes sense. Like, I enjoy the creative part of my work. So it's not going to be a challenge for me. I know that's going to happen, right? Whereas exercising every day, or even though writing the book is creative, it feels so daunting to me right now. I know I need to make that a goal. I don't have the podcast on here as a specific goal because I'm enjoying the rhythm of that and the creativity. I look forward to doing that every week. And so I don't need like a push, an extra goal to do that. I know it's going to happen. And so for me right now, I'm in the space where I'm enjoying the creative endeavors. But what I need to really push myself on and hone in on more as a goal is these stable things. These things are going to help me feel more stable. And so I wanted to explain that. And so maybe you identify with that. Maybe it's the opposite for you. Maybe you've been so focused on like survival mode and the stability and the finances and all of that, but you need to get back into just the creative work that we're doing here, like in the Redefine process, right? Where you're reconnecting with and redefining you and focusing on trusting your intuition and being playful and creative and all of that. So maybe your goals are more focused on that. Maybe you need to take a vacation or have a goal as far as like daily or weekly or monthly, art making time, that kind of thing. But for me, it's flip-flopped right now to the stable is what I need to focus on. So again, what I want you to do for homework is to identify what are you most proud of from this past year, and so my feeling was proud. Maybe there's another feeling attached to that for you. So maybe do some thinking on that, some journaling through. If it's not proud, or if it is proud and another feeling, what is it? It could be confidence, like we focus a lot on that in this healing process because we lost our confidence. We doubt ourselves a lot after the abuse. And so maybe it's like reflecting on areas of your life where you felt confident, you kind of feel proud of that. That's just an example. So it might be some other feelings you want to hone in on when you're reviewing this past year. And I know we're not done with the year yet, but I really like to just go ahead and kind of get started on this so that we're set when January starts. And then what are 1 to 3 areas you want to focus on improving in the new year? So for me, it's that health, work, and finances. For you, it might be creativity, playfulness, it could be your work, just those kind of your spirituality, those areas of life. And then kind of as a subcategory of that, if you can hone in on the specifics, do that. But right now I'm just asking you to identify kind of those categories, and then maybe over this next couple of months as the year comes to an end, maybe hone in on that, make it more specific as far as goals. And then 3, how can I help? I would love for you to let me know how I can best support you in this, whether you are in the paid program or not. Again, I'm showing this video to everyone in my online community. How can I help? What are questions you have? What are things you would like to see on the podcast, in the app, things like that? And so I would love to come alongside you and help you, support you in this coming year through your goals. And so, and I would love to kind of have your accountability too. That's a big part of me putting this out there, especially like announcing my book and the working title, this rough draft of the title that I have. And I have started outlining, kind of working on some things, but it is by no means finished. So yeah, you can hold me accountable to that. If you're interested in the book, then ask me about it, as the months go on. So yes, I look forward to hearing from you about your goals. Next week, or in the next couple of weeks, probably next week because Thanksgiving's coming up, we will get more into just talk about the holidays. Also, for those who are here members in the app, there are some videos in the video bundles. I believe it's in the Rest and Renew, but you can go in there and check the titles of the videos. I talk a little bit about that and some of those kind of, yeah. So I wonder, even if it doesn't get as specific as we will here, like next week, if you're already kind of feeling that, check out that Rest and Renew video bundle, because I do talk about depression, about routines and anniversary reactions and that kind of thing, and I think the holidays as well. So as sort of a trigger or anniversary reaction for a lot of people. So yeah, check that out if you're struggling with that now, but we can get more into that next week. And ask me questions. Please ask me questions in that Q&A section, that tab in the community chat. Submit your questions to me, or you can send me a private message through there too. All right, overcomers, thank you, and I'll see you next week. And again, you can reply to the email that I sent. You can message me privately here, send me a new email, whatever you want, message on Facebook to let me know your answers to these questions. Like, I really want to hear from you. I've shared my reflections of what I'm proud of and my goals moving forward with you, and I want to hear from you so I can help, hold you accountable and